Thank you for the invitation, Paulo. It's a pleasure to be here, speaking at the Wilson Center. I'm going to talk about foreign policy outlook, following a little bit of what Garmin said on what's the impact of political coalitions in Congress on most of the domestic drivers of Brazilian foreign policy. I'd like to begin by asking, by considering, does it matter? Does foreign policy matter as when we talk about public opinion in elections in Brazil? Traditionally, not much. But according to the latest Ibope poll from March 2010, most remembered news were related to foreign policy. 12% said that the most remembered news in the past month was Lula's trip to Haiti, 12%. Also 12% Lula's trips abroad in general. 7% Lula's trip to Cuba. 6% Hillary Clinton's visit to Brasilia. And finally, 5% Lula's comment on Iranian nuclear program. So these were the 5 most remembered news in Brazil in March, according to the Ibope poll. The first, just to get an idea, the first non-international issue, or the first domestic issue, was Dilma Rousseff's confirmation as PT presidential candidate with 4% only. So it doesn't matter much, but there's a growing importance of foreign policy today in Brazilian politics, in Brazilian political life. More coverage by the domestic and international press. I mean, the past month there has been a lot of pieces on not only in Brazilian press but also in international press on Brazil's foreign policy stance. For example, on the 29th of March, there was this the report of the Wall Street Journal report on Brazil. The Times ran a piece on the 20th of March on Lula's the possibility of Lula becoming UN Secretary General, quoting Lula as being infected by the peace virus. So there's been a lot of fuss on Brazil's stance in the world of late. And also, how can we answer the following question? What are the reasons behind this newfound interest in Brazilian foreign policy? First, of course, there are more, on one hand, recent controversial issues, such as Brazil's relation with Iran, meddling with Middle East affairs, and Cuba. Brazil's president was in Cuba when the political dissident died in prison of hunger strike. Also, Brazil's increasing role in the multilateral groups, in WTO, the retaliation against the U.S. and cotton subsidies lately, and Brazil's role in the G20, the financial G20, and also in the United Nations Security Council. These are more recent controversial issues that help put Brazil on the map or on the radar. But then, on the other hand, there are several structural changes that also matter because historically the Ministry of Foreign Relations in Brazil, Itamaraty, defined or controlled foreign policy agenda in Brazil traditionally, historically. A situation that many have said that has maintained relatively stable since the new democratic period, since 1985. For 2 main reasons. Basically, the first one is that foreign policy issues and international relations has almost no political or electoral impact in Brazilian daily life or daily politics and elections. And the second reason is that there are few experts on foreign policy and international relations outside Itamaraty or outside the government. The academia or even Brazil's economy is relatively closed. I believe only 15% of Brazil's GDP is related with trade, export and import. It's only accounts to 15%, less than 20% of Brazil's GDP. So companies don't have that much interest on Brazil's international negotiations in general and trade negotiations in particular. But I believe that situation has changed in the past few years. First reason and structural reasons is the strengthening of Brazilian democracy since 1985 and especially since 1988 when the new constitution was promulgated, and that led to increasing public debate on policy planning, mostly on social policies. More accountability. These policies, social policies mainly, are held more accountable today, and I believe the last policy to feel that pressure of public demand and public debate is foreign policy. And I'm not saying that it's going to be as accountable as other social policies, such as health policies and education policies. But there are a few areas of foreign policy, mainly in trade areas, that are more accountable or more prone to influence today than they were years ago. The second reason for this structural change and why foreign policy has become more popular in Brazil or more politically important, relevant in Brazil, is the economic liberalization since the 1990s, the end of the GATT rounds, the Uruguay round, that opened lowered general industrial tariffs. Also the creation of Mercosul in 91, 95, and the whole round of privatizations by the Cardoso government, and even before that by Itamar Franco's government, that has led to a rising distributive conflicts as an effect of foreign and trade policies on Brazil's industrial sector, on many lobbying groups, pressure groups, such as Fiesp, and two examples that to underline the importance of this is the impact of the Bolivian natural gas crisis on Brazilian politics in 2005 or 6, I believe, and also our growing trade relations with China and the importance of that matter. And finally, the third reason for this growing interest in Brazil's foreign policy is President Lula's more assertive or confident foreign policy rhetoric. Well, that has been known that Brazil's foreign policy has been more ambitious, many more goals since in 2003, and that has led initially to a dangerous combination of more goals with the same budget. In Lula's first term, the list of goals of Brazil's foreign policy, including trade policy, including opening up embassies all over the world, mainly in Africa and Asia, and also Haiti, Brazil's command and the mission, UN mission in Haiti. That widening of Brazil's foreign policy agenda was not accompanied by an increase in budget. I'm talking about the foreign ministry, and I'm talking about the defense ministry. This is in the first term. That situation has changed in the second term. More money going to both ministries. Just as an example, Brazil had large, significant debts with UN agencies 2 or 3 years ago. As a result, there has been an increase in foreign policy's impact on domestic politics, as I said before, and the new president, be it Serra or Dilma or Lula, as I gather from here, the new president will have to deal with several new domestic drivers of Brazilian foreign policy, and 3 main drivers that I identify as relevant. First, Brazilian Congress role. Initially, Congress has had a very discrete role in Mercosul, for example. On our Constitution, actually, Article 4th of our Constitution says that Brazil should implement social, cultural, political, and economic integration with Latin American countries. So that, some might say, interpret that, including myself, that's kind of like a blank check to the executive to reach any kind of agreements south of Rio Grande.